So what kind of a title are you thinking?
Well, the one that you created was a really good one, man.
Working it out?
Working it out.
He's been sporting the shorts, eh? Fucking just taking summer on.
I'm summoning spring. I'm like, let's fucking do this. Quit teasing me already. I'm like, fuck, is it gonna snow next week or what?
I don't know, is it? I don't think so. We got like 18-degree weather.
Is it?
Coming up.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm embracing it.
Good. Some of us has to.
That's the plan.
You sure you don't want any tea?
You really want me to have the tea, don't you?
No, I don't really. So this will be the new setup. We have to be sensitive to not get too close to the mic, because all the starts to spike on the audio.
Spitting on it. All right, well, maybe we should test the distance. Or have you done that already?
I'd say like about here is good.
Here works.
Anything closer, start spitting on the mic.
Okay, I can deal with that. So just I got your email last night, and I because I hadn't had time to go I didn't go through all the details of Patreon, like how I just went and set it up, and I looked and I saw, okay, there's image, but I still don't really know
How it works.
So if we use it, we use it. If we don't, we don't. That's fine. But
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is cool, because then I read that whole, whatever, 50,000, 100,000 independent creators and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is like a cool thing. And I think there's been versions of it before, or there's probably other stuff too that's like that.
They're coming out.
Right.
Patreon, and yeah, there are versions of it.
Right.
A bit more focused. So, Udemy, for example, you pay to get other people's knowledge, right? So you access their knowledge, and there's a payment gateway.
That's like a yeah, I know that one.
So there's all sorts of platforms like that.
Okay.
This one's a little different in that you whatever it is that we're creating, that you're creating, that I'm creating, we can create like tiers of involvement, investment from listeners, and then there are things that we provide them based on those tiers.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Oh, like different levels of content and stuff.
Different levels of content that they
Right.
get access to based
Right.
on how much that they're.
Yeah,
they're
there's a guy, Duncan Trussell. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He's a comedian, and that's what, yeah, that reminds me, because that's what he would say is, sometimes he goes on these really crazy rants, like, whatever, unedited and stuff, and so and they're funny as hell.
Yeah, so you get access
And
to
yeah,
that.
you have access to that kind of stuff, and that's what he had mentioned. And just with regard to, you having to do a bunch of extra work, and, like, so, when we originally started the podcast, the idea was this to be a fun outlet.
Totally.
A fun project. So, and I'm totally down. I realize, I'm like, wow, you know what? And I appreciate all the work you put in, man. But to be honest, it's like, what is it that we want to do? You know what I mean? Like, how serious do we want this to be? Where do we want it to go? Because the idea was like, you know what, man? We've got so much shit going on in our world. And it's like, there's all this stuff jumbled up in here. Let's just throw it on a podcast and let it rip, And then I think we've started to get, not really structured, but somewhat with the conversation, and then it was like some editing, and then it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a progression that happens.
Right, and it just inevitably happens. So it's like, sharing it and all that stuff's totally necessary, but at the same time, it's like, are we as I don't know how I'm trying to describe this, but it's like your business is the most important thing. So are we making the podcast as heavy as our businesses? Because that was the idea in the first place. Is like, man, being a parent's heavy, being married can be heavy, having a business can be heavy. Let's have some fun.
Yep.
Well,
and I think we're still doing that.
No, we certainly are.
Actually, let me take that back. I know we're still doing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here every week on a Sunday morning doing this, right?
Right.
So there is a measure of the joy and that this does that.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you a recent email this morning. I look at it, and I have a tendency to look at it from a lens of communication because that's my world, and then I see the opportunity, and then there's like a gap between what I'm seeing as the opportunity and where we're at, forgetting what we've created this to be. So, and there is a growth, like a growing, that as this happens, that I feel like it's going to go that way. If this continues past episode 50, there will be a momentum that have generated at that point. At 100, you know what I mean? Like there's just a natural progression that this happens, and I think, like most things, there's a premature dive in, make complicated for the sake of, not for the sake of, but because of what is being influenced. What's out there that's influencing.
Yeah, it's like you said too, it's a natural thing. It's sort of, you just start to get more involved or what have you.
So Patreon's a great idea. And to really make it work, to have it work, requires some thought and some formulation and some strategy, and that's the thing that I'm present to, like in diving in and seeing what the platform's capable of, and seeing what people have done and what they haven't done, or what they felt that they needed to do now because of the platform and how they set up the platform. I'm like, oh my God, I do not want to go down that rabbit hole, right? I don't want to create it. And it comes, and then I'm right back full circle going, and I'm the one who does most of the technical implementation. So
100%.
So right away I see the
work.
Yeah, the work and the bottleneck, right, of the work. If you and I were both doing the same thing, like we both happen to be in the same business and we were doing the same thing, it might not be as daunting. So that's the thing that kind of brought me back to earth, going, like I see the future and I'm not digging it right now.
Yeah, no, and that's cool because, like I said, I had no context for what that actually looks like. I was just like, you're like, hey man, let's take this next level Patreon. I'm like, cool, and I just fucking checked it out. I'm like, hey, let's set this up and see what it's like. So, you know, something I'm thinking about too is in terms of 50-50. I actually don't know where I can contribute beyond, like, a lot of this stuff it's work for you, but you're good at it, and it's natural and it's easy.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's not, and it really occurs to me as like a breakdown. It's a lot of work. So I'm not really sure beyond showing up with my beautiful voice every week what my contribution actually is. And then the other thing to think about is that whole enrollment conversation, because if we continue with this podcast, it's likely that we might even have, dare I say, a fan or two that might actually want to come on and support us with the podcast and say, you know what, guys, I'll take on your Patreon account.
Absolutely.
I just thought of this right now.
Okay, so, and by the way, I don't know if you realize it or not, we're at 650 downloads of our podcast.
So what does that mean?
That means...
So out of the 20 episodes...
It's been downloaded 650 times.
And that means...
In its entirety.
Oh, okay. So
since its inception.
Okay, so the whole amount of the content, all of the episodes, at whatever point that you've discovered it, you've downloaded or whatever, the whole thing.
And that's just from Podbean.
Right.
That's not including people who listen to it
on the website,
on Facebook, on the iTunes podcast. Like I have no idea what those stats are.
Yeah. Right.
So we're putting it out there, and we're just...
Yeah, that's the one thing that's weird about. I think you just must have to just learn that as you go through. But that's the one thing that's weird about podcasting is like it's like a radio station that no one tunes into, or everyone's tuned into. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, there is definitely a tuning into.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's something to get present to. And so when we talk about now the 50-50 conversation, there is an awareness that you get to bring around what it is that we're up to outside of the Facebook share. which is typically singular, and that's it. Hey, we got this podcast,
Yeah.
and then it's quiet again, right?
Episode 19, check it out.
That's right.
You know what? One thing that I have to remind myself of is, well, I like to talk. So, maybe that's an area that I really have to focus more on in terms of conversation. I have to make it a part of like my agenda almost. Not that I'm trying to like, hey, you got to listen to my podcast, but it's more like as it naturally comes up in conversation. What are you up to? What do you do? I like fucking forget about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So I need to be like, oh yeah, by the way, I have this awesome passion project I'm doing with my friend called the Just Podcast. Oh, you have a podcast? Because as soon as you mention to people that you have a podcast, they immediately get
There's something
intrigued.
else. There's you just revealed something unintentional and interesting. So that's a big piece of this, and one of Gary Vaynerchuk's posts talks about that in this world you need to have a voice that's like in this digital world, right? You have we do what we do in person, and then we have this this digital footprint that should be audio, video, and then something else I can't even remember. But that your voice is there on those mediums, because people have apps and whatnot that tap into each of those ways of listening, right? So we're tapping into both of them already, and I'm constantly rechecking myself to not turn it away from it being a passion project and it turning into a responsibility. And there are guys that are generating like 20 grand a month on their podcast, man. So like, there is a possibility, and we're not gonna. It's like looking at across the gap to the other side of the mountain, going, I could totally do this. But you got no equipment. No tools, no nothing. But like,
Well, I had a
man,
grappling hook.
if I just jump this, I could probably make it.
If I was Batman.
If I was Batman, I could probably make this.
You know what though? That's the thing too. Is like, having said that, you're totally right. But my question would be, were those people, did they start out intentionally saying, hey, I'm going to do this podcast and I'm going to fucking make 20 grand a month?
I don't think so. It was just a passion project.
Yeah.
That's the common thread through all of this.
Right.
So again, it is coming full circle, and it is the tendency that in which we are to like expect grandeur right out of the gate. Well, if I do this, I can generate 20 grand a month.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah, but that was like 5 years of work, likely 10 years of work. Like, I don't even know. They have some of these guys have a fan base of 20, 30,000 people.
Yeah.
We got 650 downloads, which is a milestone. But it's not that.
I have had people though come back to me who I've said, now that I figured out that this is so embarrassing. Oh, they're just podcast.com. Oh, it's that easy.
You do realize I was there the whole time,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Okay.
I realized that about 19 episodes in. But then I'd be like, I'd be talking to people and I'm like, hey, yeah, check it out, justpodcast.com. And then I see that person the next week and they're like, hey man, I listened to your podcast. It was really good. I'm like, you listened to my podcast?
Wait. You actually did what I asked you to do?
Yeah. So people will actually check it out. And I think it sort of has that, what's that, Facebook Live attraction to it, because people are like, oh my god, you have the balls to record something and then put it out.
Yeah, it's funny how many comments come out of like that perspective. Like, kudos to you for having the balls to do this. And for me, I'm and I can't speak for yourself, but I imagine it's the same. It's like, well, it's not a thing, man. It's actually not a thing.
Podcast is pretty safe.
It is pretty safe
to me.
Yeah. That's why this is here.
Yeah, it's pretty safe. So but the other thing about it too is also representing for us, I think this is probably a conversation we had, but the development in ourselves, because we want to speak, we want to be out there. It's like a part of our being that there's things that we're passionate about that we want to share, either through written word, video, or audio.
Yep.
And so the podcast is just making it, for me, I can't speak for you, but it's making it a lot more natural for me to get in front of a camera, to be on a microphone, to, do you know what I'm saying? I'm not.
It's a training.
Yeah, it's like one, I notice it for 1 second, then it goes away.
Yeah.
And then I'm just back into a conversation,
So, I think that was a required preamble to get into, and this is it, right? Like it's that kind of stuff. It's like what would normally get edited out, like that piece.
Yeah.
This is actually episode 21.
Yeah, and I was thinking that as we're doing it, this is what's so cool and so fun about this. There's nobody here telling us, like, wait, you can't start your podcast that way. This can't be your episode. We're just here going, wait a minute. And this is like, to me, the title's like working it out. It's like, wait a minute, what the fuck are we doing
Working
here?
it out.
Because
Managing expectations.
The thing that's interesting about it is that the thing I'm working on and my natural way of being is to wing it, right? And the thing that you're actually working on and the thing that's your natural way of being is like, okay, this is how we're going to fucking do it. It's like rigid, it's serious, and it has a structure.
Yep.
Right? So we need to continuously have this conversation. Probably at episode 40, we'll be checking in again and saying, wait a minute. And I don't want you to ever feel like you're not being contributed to, or I don't take this seriously, or you're doing all the work. That's not what this is about, and that's not my intention. So I think it's continually checking in and saying, okay, well, where am I contributing and how can I contribute? So maybe that's, I can put in my email signature.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, if you want to learn more about me and who I am personally, check out thegistpodcast.com.
Yep.
Right? Like that's the things that I can do.
It's the awareness piece, I think, is the big one, the big opportunity. So I have a technical understanding. Cool.
Yeah.
What I don't have an understanding of is the reach opportunity for podcasts. Right?
Me
like
either.
there's a world. So in exploring that world, we just get to do some research, both of us, right? Like as a thing that we do to move what we're doing forward on in all facets. It's like, why a podcast? What is the power of a podcast? What has people done? You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting about that now? I kind of realize I actually do a shitload of research on podcasts.
Right. Yeah, you listen to a lot more podcasts than I do.
I listen to a fuckload of podcasts, and then I realized, because you just mentioned something about reach, I find it impossible to believe that 100,000 or 1 million people could have a successful podcast, but the reality of it is they actually could.
Yeah, and they do.
Then they do. Because like you said, the reach, and just because I'm a listener to a podcast about, I don't know, fine arts, doesn't mean that I'm not listening to personal development or comedy or sexuality or relationships, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts from like every different genre. So we're no different. We're putting out this podcast. There's going to be people who are listening to comedy, but also a big fan of the Gist podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And having others with the same name, which you came across.
Yeah.
I find that as an opportunity, not like, oh my God, they've got the same name and they're doing the thing, because I've known about them from day one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I did not.
And
I thought we like creatively came up with this thing.
Oh my
like,
God,
get
no.
your shit together.
Yeah, no.
I mean, we did sort of come up with it, but then I would assume that you later discovered that acronym existed.
We came up with it, but it wasn't unique.
Right.
That acronym has been around for a while.
I totally thought it was unique. So my heart was
Our take on it is unique.
For sure, yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, like
so what they're doing and what we're doing, it's very different.
Absolutely. Like they have a whole, I mean, it's cool, right?
Don't go check them out. We'll find you.
We will find you. It's like, oh wait, this is what we were looking for. These other guys are just
two douchebags. Man, I just waste my time.
Yeah.
The one thing I got that is on my radar as a thing that I want to do and sort out is to actually do a bit more of a website, as opposed to it just being on a single channel like Podbean. And you can use Podbean as you can like add extra pages and stuff, but I feel like, and again, this is my communication background coming in, there is little opportunity for us to really strengthen and refine as we define it, right? The Gist podcast as a brand. Mm-hmm. And so I'm exploring and dare I say, some of these turnkey website builder solutions that are out there.
Yeah, I know how you feel about this sort of
It's
stuff.
like, am I, did I just stab my industry in the back? Like I have that feeling, but and then there's a part of me is like, fuck it, dude. You just said you don't want to put any more work in there, so, path of least resistance. So it's something I want to explore.
It's a chance to go against the grain a bit.
Yeah, totally.
You know what's interesting is if anyone's actually watching the video, they're probably going to be watching that one section there going, why does Vern look so confused? And the reason why I look so confused is because I have this story about being like technically illiterate. So,
Which is bullshit, by the way.
when you said going more of a website route, so what's the difference between whatever you're talking about and
what we have?
the justpodcast.com? Yeah.
So the justpodcast.com. Oh, we're doing a little DIY like training here.
Yeah. So
The
if you're-
justpodcast.com right now is just a domain that's pointing to our channel on Podbean.
There's that word again, pointing. Okay.
Yeah, so
I heard that.
it's doing a redirect is what it's called, is the official term. So it doesn't actually live anywhere, and inside of the domain manager like GoDaddy, I say, take this URL and point it over here, which
Right.
is thegist.podbean.com.
Okay.
Which is that's where all our podcasts live right now.
Right. So, but on that platform that you already have set up, that's not a website, or that's not where
It is a website, but it is a Podbean website. So it's in their world. It helps us manage the podcast, which I don't want to take away from.
I got
but
it.
what I want to do is have a little bit more control over how we want to show up.
Right, how we want to show up, and then you'd also probably have a bit more of a context for who else is showing up. Or who is showing
we'd
up,
see
right?
we'd see some
you'd
some
have-
analytics and traffic but some of the other things that I want to do, I want to explore. Like I've got all these cool ideas for swag, like hats and T-shirts and
Right.
shit like that. You can't do that on Podbean, man. It's a
Right.
podcast platform. So if
Okay.
I want to create a hat, 100% fuck yeah, right? Like I want to create some of this stuff,
Right,
and then
yeah.
and then have it available for people to buy.
Yeah,
we need
that's-
our own environment to be
that's
able to
cool.
do that, right?
See, that's a cool idea, and that's the other thing is how this is so creative. Is there's probably lots of other people, podcasts in particular. I'm sure that they have that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, they
know?
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a place for our videos. Again, so as I go down this rabbit hole, there's a part of me that's like, okay, but be careful. Don't get too caught up in it. What is the path of least resistance to get something up that makes sense and works that we start to build on?
Yeah, and there's something about being okay with where you're at right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I have that with everything. It's like, oh, well, I can't talk about that, or I can't show up this way because, you have some kind of ideal built in your head about the way it should be.
Yeah, there's an expectation.
Yeah, and you're not that, so you're like, well, then I may as well just not even do it.
You can't relate to that, can you?
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't know what we're talking
That shit comes up every day. I've been exploring doing more video logging,
Right.
vlogging to you aficionados,
Technical.
those technically
Terms.
savvy, and even that, it's like, do you really have something to say? Like, is this really something we're saying? But it got recreated for me. I don't know if I created this with you or not. I might not have. So, Aliser, she's an entrepreneur out of Airdrie, and does some really cool stuff. We will post her channels here so you can have a look at what she's doing. She's an actress. She doesn't do a whole lot of acting anymore, but her latest video talks about the fact that she's always going to be an actress.
Right.
Like that's just who she defines herself as, relates herself as being, and is really excited about the ability to that vlogging does in that capacity to like entertain and be entertaining.
Right.
But one of the interesting things that she created with me and Maya was her intentions around how she uses video, and that it's actually for her kids to get to know their mom in a different way, because there's a good chance that the 5-year-old, hell, the 2-year-old, isn't going to remember much of life right now.
Yeah.
And so how remarkable is it that they get to now experience and really get to know who she is, period, like her whole journey.
Yeah.
And that really reignited this idea of the video log and what it actually provides, not just as an external, like, hey, this is me and this is what I'm up to, but that it creates such a deep connection to my kids now, with what Maya and I are up to in two very unique ways, and they get to know us.
Right.
Like, they actually get to know us.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I'm inspired by that.
I know, right? It's hard not to be.
Yeah, because I was about to say before you started talking about, or when you were talking about making videos and saying, oh, is this, should I be putting this out, whatever. I was actually thinking the opposite. I'm thinking, man, I got to really put out more video because, right?
Because.
And that actually is something that resonates with me in terms of a calling, like why I would do it.
Close the door. I love you too. Thank you. Can you close the door, please? She had a little note with a coffee cup, and it said, I love you in it.
She being...
my little girl, right, of course.
Yeah.
You didn't see that?
Yeah.
Come on, I saw it.
Hello. You didn't see that glare off our eyeballs? Yeah, so that's inspiring, because I always think about that. How cool would it be to be able to connect with a relative or something 150 years ago? Well, they didn't have that technology,
exactly.
right? And hopefully this technology is still available in 150 years if the world doesn't explode, but we have that opportunity now to do this kind of stuff. Our kids are going to be able to, as adults at our age, think about how cool that's going to be. When they're, in their mid-30s, they can go, wow, we can actually listen to shit that our dads were up to in their mid-30s.
Yeah, and what they were dealing with.
Yeah.
And actually create a degree of relatedness that would not necessarily be available in the same vein. Like, there's just a different relatedness with us now in our 50s, connecting with our kids at their 30s.
Yeah,
right?
and they're still always your kids.
Yeah.
They can look at this and listen to this type of content from a perspective of human being to human being.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really cool. Brings it down to earth.
So that really lights me up, excites me about creating content versus, and it's, I don't know, sometimes it's so semantics at some point. It's like, but that's what you've always been doing anyways. It's just the context got shifted, and it got something got lost along the way that had it show up as like, it's duty. It was my duty to do this because the world needs it.
So it lost the purity.
Yeah.
It lost the...
There was an inauthenticity actually that was there.
Right.
That I felt like I was now obligated to do it, and that was all self-created for me.
Totally.
Which is, we are insane.
I totally get it. I did the same thing with all my stuff. Like, even I used to be like a total Instagram hooer, and then I was just
man, I've gone ghost on my Instagram.
Yeah, me too. And it's actually, I've been reminded recently of how much I actually like it, because I started getting fucking serious about it. And it's like, why am I so serious? Why am I so serious all the time? Like, you're right. It's like a passion turns into an obligation.
Yeah, and it is so subtle, man. Like, it comes in behind.
You don't even realize it.
And pushes you into the pool. It's like, I'm here, you fucker.
I just got the funniest visual with that. Like a clone version.
Yeah, it's like the alter ego of you.
All of your, exactly, all of your different characters that, you know what I mean, you play from time to time.
They are sitting around a table.
Wearing different colored t-shirts. With different hashtags on their t-shirt.
Oh my god, dude, we got to create that. That would be so funny.
That is hilarious.
Now that's where we really need somebody who does video well, because Because you could actually do that. You could have all of us like.
Yeah, it would look like there's all these people.
That'd be so funny.
That'd be hilarious. All right, let's get serious about this. No. Right? Let's make this happen.
I thought we were.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so actually to bring it back around, because this is the episode. So an area that I'll focus more then is actually publicly sharing, person to person, through video and through my different mediums of communication, sharing the podcast as a part of my world.
Yeah.
And what I'm up to, and hey, check it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you crying?
No, there's no. I was just laughing so hard
Yeah,
that
no,
I had
that's
tears
great.
in my eyes. That was hilarious, man. Oh my god, that's such a fucking hilarious idea.
Yeah. At some point, we will do that.
And what's cool about this is we just documented it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's coming around full circle, man. It's like, this is what it's about. And yeah, there can be some, like I was looking at our episode lists and the framework that we put this in, and it's super important. It's necessary. And it can so easily just get confined inside of there.
Yeah.
And then all inspiration, I shouldn't say all, but there's a big majority of it just got constrained.
Right.
There's no, listen, it's got to stay in this box because that's the episode today.
Exactly. And dude, you're hitting so many chords. I mean, that's like, I love how we just sat down. This was a conversation that we needed to have. Mm-hmm. And then we just had it and we documented it, and now it's the episode. And that's the purity of what we actually wanted to create in the beginning.
That's right.
Right.
So it takes something, I'm really present to it takes something to hold that space and to keep it, like keep a buffer zone around it, because we said it was important to us.
Right.
That it's not insequential. It's not this thing that has no value. We said it holds value. This is the value that it holds, and how quickly the intrusions come in, right? Like well, I actually say that it's not valuable, and here's why. Yeah, I keep coming back to like fucking like a version of me coming in and kicking something down and then running away.
slap a picture off the wall and just run.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? That's my life right now.
And you can't get mad because you did it.
Yeah. Right. That has got to be a content piece.
Oh man, that is so fucking funny. Wow.
So just getting present to the maniacalness of our
crying.
tendencies.
I am crying.
And how we do this to ourselves, man. This is, we would not actually realize this had we not taken this journey and did these podcasts.
Yeah, and the other thing about it too is the possibility of driving an anchor or a wedge through a relationship or a project by failing to communicate clearly what you're actually dealing with.
Yeah, and what you're up to.
Right? Do you know what I'm saying by that? Like a lot of people
expand on it.
A lot of people are working together on something.
Yep.
And then they have this passive aggressive nature where
what do
they
you mean?
show up and they're like, all right, let's do the podcast. And really we're both actually dealing with something, but then we sit down and do the podcast, and then when we leave we talk shit about each other to ourselves.
Have you been talking shit about me?
All the time. No, but that's what I'm saying is like we have to commit that there's no room for that.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't matter how ridiculous whatever you think it is that you're dealing with. You're like, oh, fuck, I can't even. You almost feel stupid for certain things that you might be thinking about. Who cares? Because the reality of it is it's not even real. It's just some shit that's in your...
It has an impact.
And it has an impact.
Like it takes us out significantly because it is constantly running in the background, whether you're present to it or not.
Totally.
And then it comes to a head every week. Be like, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again. I'm fucking building all my visuals. I'm sharing shit. And where the fuck's Vern? Radar silent.
You Comes in, he drinks my coffee.
Yeah, breaks my coffee machine and leaves.
Breaks my coffee machine.
I didn't actually break his coffee machine.
You probably did.
Just for the record. Anyway, man, fuck, dude, I'm so pumped. This was awesome. This was a great episode, and I think we're a bit past what our normal quote is, but I think,
hey man,
I think it was great.
This is magic. The magic of being in the moment and sharing what's really there, and seeing what's now available. Like, okay, so here it is. All the cards are on the table. Oh, now what?
Yeah, and again, that was part of the original
Yeah.
intention as well. Yeah. So this will be on YouTube?
We're going to publish this on YouTube. It's going to be unedited.
Nice.
Completely unedited.
Nice.
And there might be even good a chance that this audio version might not need much editing either, right? Like there's been a flow. There was a flow.
Yeah, there was a flow. And the other thing too about that is just like you said before, that authenticity. It's like every once in a while I might repeat myself or I might stutter and you know,
Lord have mercy.
Please forgive me.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of our journey. I have no doubt that those who are listening have gotten something out of this. And I'm curious, like, as I tend to be, I'm curious to know what shows up for people. Like there's a thing that you're up to, that you're committed to, that you want to do, you haven't done, wish you did. And now what? Like now with this context, what are you doing? What are you taking on? What are you stopping doing? And let us know. I'd love to hear how this starts to ripple out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how can they let us know?
How do they let us know? Our main channel right now is on Facebook at The Gist. And then on YouTube as well is another platform that we're pushing out and promoting. So any one of those. But our easiest point of entry is Facebook at The Gist or come to thegistpodcast.com. But we're still figuring that piece out.
Right, and we're working on an email address as well, right?
You can say hi at thegistpodcast.com.
That's up and running.
That's
right
literally the email. Say
Yeah.
hi
Say
at
hi.
thegistpodcast.com.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we got this, man.
Nice work, bro.
All right. Peace out.
Rock and roll. Fuck, man, that was awesome. That's actually where I thought you were going, was the email address.
I didn't know where the fuck I was going.
I was thinking in my head, I'm like, nice segue, man. Well done. Okay, so by the way, you emailed me and you said, let me know if you get this, but I wasn't sure if that was... I didn't actually get like a...
But you got that email though,
Yeah,
right?
I just got, let me know if you get this or whatever. So that was the email?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so both of us now get... If anybody sends an email to say hi at The Gist, both of us will get it.
But it'll redirect to my...
To your Vern... yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
See, like that right there? I have no idea how you did that. I'm sure I could go and read an article, and I should record myself. Oh my god, that would be a funny thing for me to do. Recording my frustrations with like research.
Like in the moment.
Yeah, just going like, you know what, here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find out how the fuck I upload my games to the cloud for my Xbox. And and then I show, here's 10,000 fucking words, man, and somewhere in here is the information I'm looking for.
Somewhere in here is the
You just
answer.
fucking tell me what to do.
Step 1, 2, 3. That's all I want, man.
By the way, what is with that? I mean, I get people are probably trying to develop content and get you to follow them or whatever, but why is it that when I Google something simple like that, it has to be a fucking article? It has to be a blog. Why can't I just get the answer? It's so rare that you just get the fucking answer.
Well, it's full circle back now to what we were just talking about. We got to make it. There's an expectation to have it show up a certain way. It's got to be
right. I suppose maybe
super
that's just how it works.
Flushed out and listen. It's for the people who have your answer. It's for the people that your